Hey there, Barry Crine here, CEO and founder of Do More Better. And in this episode, I'm going to share how you can plan your year and get it all, the business, the professional, and put it all on one single page. And look, it's a big promise, but trust me, if you're a driven entrepreneur and you feel like you're always forgetting key moments, you're not going to want to miss this. And at the end, I'm going to share with you how you can get access to the same template I use with all my clients and get all this information in one spot. Okay, so let's get into it. It was about 5 years ago after we had kids. I was building my company, my wife had her own career, and we're really just trying to get the most out of our own time. So there's a lot of demand in our time, my wife's time, and we wanted to be a present family. So I actually learned this strategy that I'm going to be teaching you here today from my mentor, Dan Martell. Dan taught it to me, and I actually use this same process with my coaching clients right now, and I'm going to share it with you today. I mean, if you follow Dan on Instagram, social media, etc., he lives a highly integrated, high quality of life, and he's an incredible high performer. And that to me is the benefit of being able to assess in a 12-month period all the key elements that you want to get in there to make sure that you're really squeezing the most out of your life on both a professional and a personal level, and to ensure you're doing that in a way that you're not wasting time having to replan, having to redo things. So there's 5 key strategies that you need to build a solid 1-year plan for your life. Number 1 is the big rocks first. Now, if you've never heard the analogy of the big rocks, essentially it's a glass jar. You got the sand, you got the pebbles, you got the big rocks. If you put the sand in first, then the pebbles, you can never fit the big rocks into the jar, the big stuff, the big projects you want to achieve, okay? You put the big rocks in first, then you take the pebbles, you take the sand, you put that in next, and the cool part is then you can pour water in on top of that. That's the spice of life. You can make it all work when you put things in the right order. So the key is you got to put the big stuff in. So when I think of my year, okay, number 1, critical business commitments. It could be speaking events, it could be, key things in my business. All the things that are critical to my business goes in there first, okay? Then the family stuff along with that. They're the big things to make sure that we get that quality time as a family and so on. Other than that, we have the family holidays, separate weeks locked in and loaded as well, and everything else then fits around that. The key is to make sure you put the birthdays in there as well. If you have weddings, you want to make sure all that stuff is in there as well, okay? That all has to go into your plan and strategy. So you've got the big rocks in, because the last thing you want to do, and I've experienced this myself, is to double book yourself, overcommit, and not to follow through on those commitments that you have. And then you find out after the fact that you forgot to write down a date or that you've missed something, okay? So the key is to decide what those things are, to source that information and put those big rocks into place. So you put the big rocks in first. Number 2, it's the revenue, it's the milestones, and it's regardless what business you're in. The way I think about it, there are certain projects, key outcomes, key moments throughout the year. And if you think about the next 12 months, especially if you're the founder, the CEO, you need to understand and lock in certain type things in regards to the cadence, the rhythm of your year in order to be successful. So understanding what those things are, if that's a marketing launch, if it's a product release, it might be maybe key hiring, it could be fundraising. It's putting in those big revenue growth oriented milestones into your calendar, and maybe blocking out a week or 2 actually prior to that as well, because that'll give you the confidence to go, hey, look, I know of these big things coming up, but I have pre-planned time for myself to actually get this stuff done. I can't go on holiday at this point of the year, and I can't do X, Y, and Z then, because I need to be locked and loaded for these big milestones. So for me, the way I think about it is, there's only maybe a handful of things on an annual basis, maybe 3 to 5, that are critical to drive my goals and dreams forward. And those go into the planning. So I don't accidentally overcommit myself prior to one of those big outcomes and get myself in a bad spot. Number 3 then is thinking once. One of the benefits of planning this way is that you only think once. Energy for most people is wasted, so much of it is wasted. Having to rethink situations, having to rethink solutions. Like, I have one of my best friends, and he's gotten better at it, but there was a point where the way he lived his life was so ad hoc, and what that meant was he wouldn't plan. He'd show up, he'd forget this, he'd commit to that thing, and literally his life was chaotic because there was always a rush to fix these other commitments, okay? Going to the office, coming back, meeting with this person on a Sunday, etc., etc. And the way I think about it, I save all this mental overload or overhead because I think once. I look at my year once at the start of the year and I'm like, okay, I look at all this stuff once and then I don't have to think about it again because I have a plan. And the benefit of doing that, and if you don't know, if you've ever gone back and forth on something, and this is critical, it's our ability to make decisions fast that allows us to unlock growth. Anytime you see a company that's struggling to grow, they haven't made a decision. Literally just making a decision and using the strategy to think once will allow you to build it into your week, build it into your year, and then not have to think about it again. It'll give you the clarity to communicate with other people in your life that might be demanding your time, like if you can't do something quickly versus maybe let me get back to you, etc. So it just allows your team, you yourself, to just think once, get it done, and make life easier on yourself. Number 4 then is stress testing. Once you've designed this, and I'm going to give you the template now in a second, once you design this one-page pre-charged year, you'll be able to stress test it. You'll be able to look at it. The way I think about it is I'm adding kind of typically the professional stuff first. Obviously there's the personal stuff, the birthdays, weddings, all that sort of stuff. Okay, but it's the professional stuff first, okay? And then I synchronize on the personal. So essentially my wife does her professional stuff, I do mine, and then we merge our calendars together. Okay, the personal stuff all goes in there. Okay, what kind of holidays do we want to take? What kind of hobby trips do we want to go on? Who do we want to spend our time with within the year? And we look at it, we try to get like almost 75% of the way committed. Okay, at the beginning of the year, so we know what we're doing. We're asking ourselves, if we execute, will we end up at the end of the year going, geez, that was an incredible 12 months. And I know it looks a little daunting, and if you were maybe even feels a little bit overwhelming as well, you're like, wow, that's a lot of stuff. But honestly, when you get this thing into motion, like when you do this, like when you do it a couple of times in a row or even a few years in a row, it's a great cadence to get into. And it's all about pre-planning that year, pre-charging your year, okay? So for me, it's all about sequencing. I learned this a long time ago. Sequencing equals success. It's not about the list of things you do. Like you're baking a cake is not about the ingredients. It's about the order you put those ingredients in to get the outcome you want. You know, the cake in your life, the growth in your business, the growth in your marriage, the presence with your family, world-class relationships, all that type of stuff. So make sure that you stress test it by looking at the completed plan to know that it's going to deliver on the outcomes that you want to achieve for your life. Number 5 then, it's working the plan. It's making it happen. It's taking action. There's no point doing all this prep work and designing it and putting it all into place unless you're actually going to commit to it. So my whole thing is blinders on. Yes, 10% of it might change, but for the most part it's there. And the way we do this is we've an F-yeah decision-making process. Okay, you can change the F for maybe a more explicit word, but we have a process where my wife and I ask ourselves, so if something new comes in throughout the year and it's like conflicting with something we've already committed to, we just ask ourselves, is that an F-yeah for you? And if both of us agree that it is, then boom, we change it, we swap it out. For the most part though, we work the plan. We work the plan daily, weekly, monthly. We don't go back in our decisions, we don't go back in ourselves. We don't want to add to that cognitive load, add to that cognitive overhead. We literally just want to say that if we execute, it's going to be amazing, it's going to happen. Let's make it happen. Let's get it to come to life. Let's get everybody on board so they can understand how to communicate with us, understand what's required, understand how to work with us. And that to me is how we do a fully pre-charged year. That's going to get your business growing, your relationships in checks, your health on point, so you're never dropping the ball in some part of your life, in your business, personally, professionally. So you're squeezing the maximum out of your year. Okay, so quick recap, how to plan your year is to fit everything in one page in that pre-charge year document that I'm going to give you access to now in a moment. Number 1, get the big rocks in first. Number 2, revenue milestones for growth. Number 3 is to think once, reduce that mental overhead. 4 is stress test, sequencing equals success. And 5, put the blinkers on and work that plan. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I want to share with you my pre-charge year template. This is created with my mentor Dan. I've revised it a bit for my clients now at this stage. So you can click the link below, you can get your copy. The way I use it, the way I instruct my clients to use it, is create a color-coded legend at the bottom. So you can do this with the family stuff, work, hobbies, non-profits, wherever you want. Maybe 5 or 6 categories in different colors. And then when you're adding stuff to the calendar, because it's a one-pager, you're adding your color coding, like vacation, that's family, okay? So that might be green, work stuff could be blue, non-profit could be yellow, and so on and so forth. So what I discovered as a little tip is life is about energy flows. For example, one thing I look for is I make sure that after a heads down, compressed time of business focus, where I'm meeting those revenue milestones. For me, for example, live events, right after I try to do something with my family, I know the week prior, I'm not going to be as present as I'd like to be. As I prep, as I focus, as I get ready. So the week after is a great opportunity to me to decompress, be 100% present, because my clients, I filled up their tanks, I filled up their boots, they're pumped, and they've got so much from it. So for me, when I look at it, I use the colours to provide energy flows as well. I assess the year to make sure it's non-stop or different things. And I'm always looking for just better flows as well. Like for example, if there's travel stuff, if there's trips here and there, like if I change this, I can be in the same location, it can save me travel days, etc. So coloured legend, do one for your business, one for your personal, and then integrate those. So you can click the link now below, download your copy of the pre-charged year and go work on yourself, go work on your business. And if you like this video, be ready to smash that like button and subscribe to my channel. And if there's somebody you feel out there right now, a friend that's a little chaotic that needs this, send it to them, suggest it to them. And as per usual, I want to challenge you to live a bigger life and a bigger business. And I'll see you in the next video.